So my skepticism initially, I think, is healthy. We should always be skeptical of something new. But then I proved to myself that through both objective evidence, the data and the testing that we did, as well as this subjective evidence, this patient now feeling better, coming off his medications, living life again, that utilizing stem cells to treat patients with untreatable diseases was a viable option. The medical community at large, I think, is enthusiastic about the potential of stem cells, but to some extent we've been so brainwashed by the FDA and medical legal. We've got patients that are doing phenomenally well. Their physicians acknowledge that they're doing phenomenally well, but they can't take that next step saying, okay, this was because of the stem cells, even though nothing else has changed, no other treatment. So I think it's going to take time. It's going to take just repetition of seeing success with these patients. And eventually, physicians do want their patients to get better. The difficulties that we've seen in utilizing stem cells to treat patients has been kind of a spectrum. Sometimes we'll have patients that want to have the treatment and their families are not on board or resistant. And they either have to convince them, sometimes I have conversations with these family members, sometimes they have to just proceed without the family's blessing, knowing that this is really the only chance that they have. And then once they're treated and they're doing better, the family is on board, but they weren't much of a help to begin with. Some of the difficulties is in their physicians, because they're either don't have the knowledge or the experience, and when you don't know something, you're going to fear it. Or because there's not an FDA approval for this, they believe that only things that are FDA approved are successful. So we'll get some pushback from the physicians themselves. And then there's kind of the governmental agencies that are run by some of the special interests. So you'll see influences from Big Pharma, predominantly some of the medical device companies, in that they utilize the FDA to be the gatekeeper for anything new, innovative, and viable, successful in the ability to treat patients and get them off medications, and also medical devices. So the FDA has been coming down hard on people that utilize stem cells, stem cell clinics, and really trying to force this into an FDA clinical trial protocol, which costs hundreds of millions of dollars, that really only pharmaceutical companies have access to. And unless the pharmaceutical companies can figure out how to make money on your stem cells, it's not going to get approved. So a lot of the research now being done is they're trying to alter your stem cells so that it can be patented, licensed, and a profit center. And what we have found is that altering the natural ability of these stem cells to heal affects how successful they are, and potentially add some serious side effects to it. So that's why we've been hearing, the miracle of stem cells now for 10, 15 years? I mean, ever since embryonics came along. The pharmaceutical companies put a lot of money into embryonic research, didn't go anywhere, both because of the controversy as well as the severe side effects that you get with them. Then they put money into induced pluripotent cells, which are similar to embryonic, just not controversial. Again, a lot of the bad side effects. And all the trials that have been done with adult stem cells, autologous stem cells, the ones that we use that come from the patient themselves, have gone to phase 2 trials, very successful, but they never get to phase 3, which is the expensive one, because there's no profit in them. There's just the good that it does for the patients. And God forbid we actually help the patients. The majority of the people that call have done some research into stem cell treatment. And if you research it, you're going to see differing opinions. You're going to have the haters on one side and the people that are just, gung-ho about it. I think what we try to do is give these people a reasonable and objective opinion as to what it entails as far as risks go, benefits. Utilizing stem cells is not, you're not walking into the Wizard of Oz and asking for a new heart or whatever, or courage. It's a procedure, and it's medicine, and there are limitations to what stem cells can do, but there's also benefits that you wouldn't see with traditional treatment. So if a traditional treatment is proven effective, like bypass surgery, we've had patients that they came in for stem cells, I cathed them, they had multiple blockages. I said, really, you need bypass, you don't need stem cells. They had the bypass, and that's what they needed. On the other hand, I've had the same route, and the patient said to me, I don't want to have bypass for whatever reason. I said, well, then let's try the stem cells. And 10 years later, they're doing great too. So we learned from that, but we don't ever want to substitute something that is known to be effective with something that has unknown to it. Well, my first success story was also the reason why I do this, why I fight against all these obstacles and continue to treat patients with stem cells, is because this is somebody now that has been over 10 years since we've treated him. He's seen his daughters get married, he has grandchildren, he's working in his restaurant. He's been off all his medications, his defibrillator is off, our heart patient, and he thanks me every time that he sees me. So, and these are the types of stories that we get a lot of, that nothing else would have made this difference in this person's life. So I feel that being able to do something that nobody else maybe does or wants to do is part of my calling.